The NBA is no stranger to innovation, but sometimes bold changes can rapidly go horribly wrong. In 2006, the league incurred massive fan and player backlash when it introduced a microfiber basketball in hopes of improving the game. What players were left with were bleeding fingers, erratic shooting, and grip issues that forced the NBA 2 months into the season to retreat from their decision. That means they pulled back on their change. It's something the league is trying again, this time with an airless basketball. Its design is highly futuristic and catches the eye with its structure 3D printed and featuring hexagonal holes. With a history of basketball changes gone awry, the stakes have never been higher. Could this airless ball mess with the very soul of the game? The NBA's new airless basketball requires no air. Instead, its bounce is provided by an elastic polymer. This revolutionary construction looks cool, but can it perform like the old trusty balls those players are used to? The NBA has witnessed the aftermath of a poorly tested invention in the past, and this very ball can stray to that same hazardous course if the potential issues are not met. Children would love to see it float high in the air, while adults would simply consider it a nuisance. The list of potential issues a basketball without air could create runs from the bounce to the grip, and here are a few of the major problems this could pose if this were to emerge as a mainstay in the game. At the most basic level, basketball requires one thing: the bounce. Dribbling to shooting, everything gets set up according to how the ball bounces off the court. Throughout the years, basketballs have been manufactured with air inside of them and in order to have a consistent and predictable bounce. As it hits the floor, the air inside compresses and then pushes back to provide the upward force that allows the ball to come back right. But this airless basketball doesn't enjoy the privilege of air pressure inflation. Rather, its bounce is completely dependent on the material it's made of, an elastomeric polymer. The elasticity of that material alone dictates how much the ball will compress and rebound. While engineered to match the bounciness of an inflated ball, early feedback from those who have tried it out suggests it is not quite comparable. This, however, can be noticed quickly by players that the bounce isn't as soft with good response compared to traditional balls, and that can always be a big problem. Anything off that bounce can throw them off in basketball. Dribbling, passing, and shooting are precision activities, and if the ball is bouncing differently just a fraction of a second earlier or later, that can mess with their timing. Players rely on muscle memories built up from years of practice, and an inconsistent bounce indeed may equate to more turnovers, missed shots, and frustration on the court. This isn't just speculation, we've seen this happen before. When the NBA came out with the microfiber ball in 2006, the players knew right away that this wasn't a reacting as expected ball. It had less bounce and thus was more unpredictable. As the players adapted to this new type of ball throughout the league, turnovers and missed shots mounted. If this airless ball bounces even a little erratically, it will be outstealing the show of game flow, and general dissatisfaction from players and spectators will result. Apart from this, another major concern regarding the new basketball relates to how this invention interacts with external factors such as sweat, dirt, and dust. Traditional leather basketballs are manufactured in such a way that they will always have a decent amount of grip, even on a court floor that is dirty or if players are sweating from their hands. On the flip side, when the NBA eventually adopted the microfiber ball in 2006, it instantly became clear that something was wrong. The material absorbed sweat and dust differently, rendering the ball slippery and hard to be controlled. Now, with the airless basketball, a new complication arises. The 3D printed surface of the ball is covered with hexagonal holes, and one doesn't have to look too far to think about how dirt, along with sweat and other particles, would collect inside these holes. This can make its performance degrade over time. A buildup of moisture or grime could eventually throw off the weight distribution of the sphere, affecting how it flies through both the air and bounces off the ground. A firm grip is very vital in basketball players to ensure that while running down the court, whether dribbling the ball or passing to a teammate or shooting a three-pointer, they maintain possession of the ball. Traditional basketballs have deep seams and lots of panels, affording many contact points to the fingers of a player. These contact points are of essence in regulating the pattern of movement the ball assumes, hence enabling more accurate dribbling, passing, and shooting. The airless basketball, by contrast, is a very different beast. Composed of hexagonal holes in its surface, its texture is more similar to that of rubber than leather. There are fewer contact points with this design, and the polymer shouldn't be as grippy as a normal basketball. Players who tried out the ball said that it didn't feel right in their hands, and not in a good way. When taking up a shot, a player relies on the grip and feel of the ball to guide it toward the hoop. If it doesn't feel right in their hands, their accuracy is going to suffer. One of the more overlooked aspects of the airless basketball is how it moves through the air. Traditional basketballs are made with a certain weight and size in mind for an almost familiar level of air resistance. Players get accustomed to how a ball feels when they shoot, the way it resists as it travels through the air, how it acts when a player uses a certain force against it. The airless basketball is another story entirely. With no air inside and a porous design, the ball will likely experience less air resistance. It's a small change that could make all the difference in shooting. Outdoors, where wind and other elements can affect how a ball flies, less air resistance might be an advantage. But indoors, in the controlled environment of NBA arenas, this could throw players' shot mechanics off. A tiny difference in how the ball flies through the air may make a difference in shooting accuracy. Players are used to pushing against a specific level, and their memory is built into how a traditional ball will react. If the airless ball flies quicker or travels differently, it might indeed lower league-wide shooting percentages. And for the pros, where accuracy is everything, that could prove to be a game-changing issue. One of the biggest complaints about the NBA's doomed 2006 microfiber ball experiment was the general lack of player input in regards to the decision-making process. Sure, exhibition games and all-star contests were a good way to test it out, but the regular season players didn't exactly have much say before the ball was introduced across the league. The result was just about a universal backlash as players griped about everything from grip to bounce to durability. The same criticism seems to be surfacing about the airless basketball. While Wilson, its maker, has finally conceded that it isn't NBA ready, there does not yet appear to be much more transparency regarding just how extensively players have been included in the testing process for the ball. Unless the NBA truly involves the players properly in its testing, the league could be setting itself up for another disaster. While it may look like a leap forward, the NBA is about to enter a new era within the sport, and airless basketball really does come fraught with perils that would turn the face of the game beyond all recognition. From inconsistent bounces to grip, dirt, or air resistance, everything concerning this new ball threatens to turn games that are readily identifiable into terribly negative performances. If history is to judge, the last time the NBA went down this road, in 2006 with its infamous microfiber ball fiasco, they had very valid reasons to be extremely careful.